Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and today we are going to be taking a look at the A320. Now, with the A320 we're going to be taking a look specifically at how to start it today. Let's back up a little bit. We're going to look at how to create the flight plan. We're going to be using Simbrief today. We're going to look at how to set up Microsoft Flight Simulator for the flight before entering the cockpit, and then we're going to take a look at starting the aircraft, applying electrical power to the aircraft, and then entering in the flight plan today. It's going to be quite a lot of information. It's going to be coming at you today. Now, I am sorry that I have been radio silent for quite a while. Unfortunately, 2 weeks today, actually, my brother-in-law felt the need to, unfortunately, take his own life. So that's been sort of a hard battle. And his wife, my sister, 7 weeks before was diagnosed with myelofibrosis, which, for those of you who don't know, save you some Googling, is a cancer of your blood. So it's been one heck of a ride. I wish I made millions of dollars and could solve all the problems of the world for everybody, but I can't. So there is also a link to a GoFundMe in the description. If you guys want to help out, that'd be great. If not, no worries. Just, good prayers, good thoughts our way, and I'll take that as more than enough. I do want to real quickly just touch on this for a second, guys. Please know that you're all always loved, okay? You're all loved. There's someone who cares about you. There are people who care about you. I am someone who cares about you. If you guys never need anything, you can find my email in the channel link on my homepage. There are ways to get in touch with me. I do whatever you got to do. Find someone, call someone, whatever, but don't ever feel like it's the end. That's the only way out, guys. Anyway, that's all I want to say on that. I'm not going to make a big drop thing. Just wanted you guys to understand why I've been so quiet. Anyway, so moving on. The other thing I have been doing while radio silent is creating this. Now, it's not ready for quote-unquote what I would say public eye yet, and that's what I'm going to get your feedback today. But it is a beginner's guide going step by step how to do literally everything from setting up the aircraft to powering it on to setting up your flight plans, creating flight plans to the MCDU, you name it, we got it. Screenshots, everything, step by step by step. And then a couple of different scenarios involved in there as well. So we're going to be going through that today. Guys, I am absolutely okay with criticism. If I have missed a step, if I'm wrong about something, please let me know, because I want to get this guide ready for the people. So just do me a favor and keep the criticism constructive. Obviously, you just start, hey, you're stupid. I'm going to delete that comment. So, just be ready for that. I don't tolerate it right now, especially with all the hate and negativity in the world. So if that's your way of criticizing, save your fingers the keystrokes and don't even bother. But if it's effective criticism and I miss steps, by all means, or I'm incorrect about something, tell me, please. I'm totally good with that. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get over to simbrief.com and let's take a look at how to create our flight plan. Okay, so I'm going to bring this guy back over here. First thing you want to do is register if you haven't already. It is free, so just give it a quick login. We're going to come over here to dispatch and go to the dispatch system. We're going to go to create new flight plan, and all this information is pretty black and white. Now, to save yourself a little bit of a headache, you may want to convert kilograms to pounds. It's going to be kilograms for Airbus, pounds for the Boeing. I typically just leave it in pounds and do the conversion, not too hard. Google is amazing. All right, so here we're going to pick who are you flying with. So today we're going to be Southwest Airlines, and what flight number? We're going to make one up and go 1233. Now I'm going to walk you through the steps real quick on how to create this, but I've actually already created a flight plan that I'm going to be using that I used for the guide. So keep that in mind, okay? But I am going to walk you guys through the steps. Here, where are you coming from? We're coming out of Tucson International. We're going to Los Angeles International today. Our alternate airport is Ontario. Okay, we can just leave that on auto, but or you can change it, or none if you, if you don't want one. And then obviously your departure time in Zulu. Again, I don't worry about. Airframe, we're going to find the A320. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's still the A320-200 that we want to use and not the A321. That is a point of contention for me, or confusion, excuse me. So let me know if that's correct, but I think it's just the A320. All right, and then we're going to come over here and find our climb profile. All this we can pretty much just leave as is. Cruise profile, this is going to be your cost index. Now, how cost index works in a very high level term is how much fuel are you going to burn, okay? And what it is, the idea behind it is, what is the fuel cost at this airport versus the airport you're going to or another airport at the leg? How much of that fuel do we want to burn? Remember, the the faster you go, that's great. You're saving time, but the more fuel you're burning, right? So it's a weights and balance for airliners. Do we want to save money in how long it takes us to get to the next location and fly back out, get on the next route, right? Get on the next leg. Because remember, these airliners aren't making money when their planes are sitting on the ground. Okay. So anyway, cost index, how much fuel you're going to burn is what it comes down to. Okay. Higher the number, okay, faster you go. Okay. Now we're going to set it for 20. That's what our other flight plan is also set to. Fuel factor, I don't understand this one, guys. So if you guys can throw me a bone here, I would absolutely love it. How do I determine what to set this at, right? I think it has something to do with the altitude you're going to be flying at, but I'm a little confused on that. So if you guys want to help me out there, that'd be great. Anyway, departure runway. Okay, scheduled time of departure, that's totally up to you. You can leave that as custom, leave it, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't care, really. It's not going to affect your simming experience much, but, for realism, you can go ahead and drill down on that. Departure runway. Now, I do recommend before creating your flight plan here, go to your departure runway in the sim, load up ATIS, and find out what the active runway is. Okay, and it'll just make your life a little bit easier. Now, it's not the end of the world if you have to change this in the sim, but it'll save you a couple steps. Arrival runway, you can do the same thing. However, by the time you get to their point, depending on how long the flight is, your departure or your arrival runways may change anyway. And it's really not that hard to change on the fly, especially for the arrival, because ATC will tell you where to go. All right, so anyway, extra fuel, this is how much fuel is plotted to get from point A to point B with a little bit extra in case you have to circle for a bit. Extra fuel is just, your dispatcher's sake, your company's sake, how much extra fuel do you want to carry on board? I typically go for 2,000 pounds, and that way, if you need to divert or you get lost or, saw Elvis, whatever. Passengers, let's go ahead and do a full flight today. And then cargo. Okay, so everything under the seats in the belly. Let's say we're traveling with, 10,000 pounds of cargo today. Zero fuel weight, I just leave that to auto. All right, now here is our route, which is determined by the AIRAC cycle. The AIRAC cycle is basically a global set of navigational routes for the sky, okay, and they can change based on airports being shut down, airports being created, new flights starting up, new companies starting up. Okay, there's a lot of things that go into it, but the way to think of it is you have airways and you have waypoints. Okay, those are going to be from, let's back up. You have SIDs first, which are your standard instrument departures. So it is a route that is taken from leaving a specific airport from a specific runway based on which direction you want to end up flying. Okay, so that's our SID. Then you have airways and waypoints. Okay, waypoints are just a location in space. Okay, like we see here, each one of these black squares would be a waypoint. And then airways are, think of it as highways in the sky. Okay, you have your upper and your lower airways. Okay, and the defining item between the two is their altitude, how high they go. So upper airways, you're going to be up in the higher altitudes. Lower airways, you're going to be down the lower altitudes. Okay. And just think of waypoints as your on-ramps and off-ramps for the freeway, right? Now, the caveat to that is not all waypoints require an airway to get to them, okay? You can fly. There are plenty of times you're going to be you're basically going to be pointing your airplane right at a waypoint and flying directly to it. That's called direct. Okay, if we're flying direct to a location, we're literally pointing the nose at it, going straight at it from our current location. Okay, airways, you will still hit your waypoints, but between waypoints, airways can sometimes make turns or change altitudes, whatever, to avoid other traffic, right? So that's sort of the difference in between the two, okay? All right, so anyway, here is our route. And our route's always going to start with our SID, and it's always going to end with our arrival. Okay, and then everything in between is how we're going to get there. So here is our standard instrument departure from Tucson, okay, called the Burrow 4. All right, here is our transition, okay, and we can tell that because it's directly after the SID and right before the airway. Okay, airways. Now, this is where even I get a little hazy. I'm still learning how to catch airways off the bat, but I've noticed that, for example, anytime you see a Hollywood, or excuse me, not a Hollywood, a name with a number at the end of it, you can bet your money it's either a SID, an arrival, or an airway. Okay? Because there is a Hollywood waypoint that just has Hollywood. It doesn't have the one. The one identifies the airway. Okay, same thing here, J104, this is an airway, where Messy is the waypoint. Okay, Eastwind is another waypoint. Now, we don't have anything between it because that's going to be a direct, and we'll see that in the route here in a minute. I hope I'm not causing more confusion than anything. So let's come back up here. Now we're just going to hit Generate OFP, or Operational Flight Plan. This is what's actually handed to the pilots by the dispatchers. Wait for that to come up. Now you have a lot of the same information that we entered before. You can see our cruise level here is going to be flight level 340. I think on the one that I have that we're going to be using, it's 360. So but we can use 340. It's really not the end of the world one way or the other. Anyway, so let's go ahead and actually we'll use today's flight plan. What the hell? I don't care. Here is the OFP itself. Okay, now you can either leave it here, leave this website up. It's kind of a pain in the butt. What is this? Oh, all right. I'll automatically export all of your FMS routes into the proper folders when you generate a flight plan. I don't like doing that. I like entering them in. So this is if you want to have your flight plans basically already in the computer and ready to go at the time of flight. I don't like that. I like entering them. Half the fun is setting up the plane for me. Anyway, so you can either keep this website up. What I like to do, though, is go to a print preview and just download the PDF. Okay, and let's just do, yeah, sure, why not? We can leave the name. And then if you don't understand how to read any of these, you can come here to help, go to the user guide, scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now, there's a bunch of helpful stuff, abbreviations and acronyms, etc. But what you really want is to come down here, and here's our an example OFP. It's not ours, but an example of an OFP, and you can mouse over and see what everything is. Like, there's our cost index, there's our departure ICAO, our arrival ICAO, our aircraft type, etc., etc. And it goes all the way down the line. Okay? So, anyway, something for you guys to think about. All right? Now let's go ahead and get into the sim now. So we're going to go ahead and come into the sim. And the first thing that I need to do is obviously set our departure. So let's go ahead and just, here's our departure point. I've already selected the aircraft, selected the livery, but we need to do our weights and balances. Okay, and what we're going to be paying attention to is the center of gravity. It's kind of important. Alright, so actually I am going to use the same information that I used in my guide. So I'm going to be using a different flight plan than what we just created, but the principles will be the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull that guy up. Just a minute here. Actually, I think I already had it up. Where are you? There it is. Okay. Alright, so here's the flight plan we're going to be using today for our flight. Now, the first thing that we need to do is set our fuel. Okay? And what we're going to be looking for is our block fuel here. This is the total fuel on board. Okay, so we're going to be looking for 15,754 pounds is what we're using. All right, so you can see here I've changed from gallons to pounds. Here's our total fuel on board right here, first number. So we're at 23,450 pounds. I don't need that much, so we're going to bring that down. Let's go to like 34. And we're looking for 15,754. We're at 15,946. So let's try taking these down just a hair. Alright, so 15,705. And you can go right down to the digit if you want. I'm not really worried about it. So here we're off 50 pounds of gas. Okay, I'm not really worried about that. Still simulated, don't have to be too crucial, but if you want, you can dial these numbers into precision. Okay. Now, next thing we need to do is we need to take a look at payload. Payload is going to be all of our passengers and cargo on board. So what we're going to do is, here's the top of the screen. We're going to scroll down a bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to whistle into the mic there. I just heard that. So you can see, oh, apparently I didn't put any cargo on those. Whoops. All right, well, that's good. So we're looking for a total payload of 40.7 tons, which comes out to about Let's get this up here to 60. About 40,000 pounds. Sorry, not tons. Sorry, 40,000 pounds. Now you can see what's happened here is our center of gravity screwed up. So you can see this little circle here. This determines the center of gravity. We don't want it outside too far forward. If we get it too far forward, we'll be fighting the nose drop the entire time. If we get it too far aft, that nose is going to come up, and in some situations, you'll be lucky to get it back down. So we need to adjust this. Now, I need to get a 25.64, according to my flight plan, what I've created. So this is not the correct way. I accidentally grabbed the wrong one, but you guys will see what happened here. So what I'm going to do is take our forward baggage, and I'm going to move weight around. So I'm going to take that down to 5,000. Now, normally I would move it to the rear baggage, but again, according to the document that I made, I put it in the wrong spot, so forgive me. But we're going to put it here, and now you can see we get our center of gravity at 25.64 Mach. Okay, and then our performance limits and things like that. But you want to make sure that you take note of this number right here. Okay, we're going to want that center of gravity there. So write it down, etc., because you won't be able to see this portion of the screen again. Okay, so take that number down, 25.64 in this case. All right. Okay, so now that that's done, we can also come in here if you want. You can go to your ATC options, and you can type in your call sign and then your flight number if you want. Let's go back to our aircraft, and let's go ahead and jump in the seat. So we've got our weights and balances figured out. We've got our call sign all set up. We've got our flight plan created. Now it's time to enter everything into the seat. So, as soon as it's done loading here, and the document, by the way, walks through every step of this document that I'm creating. So all of this information will be there. So you can see here, here's where we set up our flight plan. And remember, or our weights and balances. Remember I told you I put the weight in the wrong spot. So there's the forward baggage that I moved down, and then economy class I put up to 15,000 pounds. So there's some fat people flying economy right now, and I know because I'm a fat guy. But here's our block fuel, just like we looked at before. Our total payload. I wonder why the cargo didn't set, because I could have sworn I set some cargo there. But anyway, so it breaks everything down, okay, step by step, walking you guys through all this stuff. And we're going to do the same thing with startup, all right? If Microsoft Flight Simulator overloads. All right, perfect. And as I said, today's flight is going to end after we enter the flight plan, because after that, there's going to be a lot of information here. So, there's a couple, if you guys are wanting to fly the A320 over the weekend before the next patch, and you run into a couple of issues that are happening, I've got a couple workarounds for you real quick. First off, if you cannot turn the batteries on, if you're trying to fly the A320 and the batteries don't come on, do me a favor and go to your settings, go to traffic, and set the ground aircraft density to 0. I have all three set to 0 because I just didn't even want to risk it. But I have confirmed, and through some testing, it was funny because actually there was a guy on the forums that was typing it up at the same time that I was. He actually beat me to it. I had almost hit submit, and I saw his post come up when we discovered this. But essentially what's happening is an AI aircraft is spawning on top of your aircraft, creating a texture layer between the controls and the actual input. So the aircraft doesn't recognize that an input's actually being created, even though you can see the button moving. So you want to, there's basically another airplane inside of your airplane. So just set this down to 0 and that problem will go away. If you are one of those people who is struggling with the left engine, there's two issues with the left engine. One, you can't start it at all. For that, I have not found a workaround. Two, if you're up and flying and the left engine dies automatic or dies on its own, you can't restart it, the workaround is to start the APU and don't shut it off. So today when we go through our startup process, we will not be turning off the APU. But understand that in the real world practice, you absolutely would. We're just not doing it because there's a bug. Okay, so start your aircraft. Okay, obviously you need the APU to start the engines, so just don't turn your APU off and your left engine should stay on. All right, now let's walk through the rest of this. So hopefully here's where I get everything right. First thing we're going to do is the batteries. Okay, then we're going to do the APU, or excuse me, we're going to do our external power. Then we're going to do our APU fire test. Make sure the alarms could sound good. And by the way, this is being recorded with the latest version of the A32NX mod. A link will be in the description below, but if not, you can also find it on the msfsaddons.org. Okay? Alright, so now let's go ahead and set our instrument lights as desired. We don't need the dome light today. We're obviously up in the daytime here. Alright, let me go ahead and scroll down here. We would make sure the pack flows are set to normal. Let's go ahead and check the ventilation system and make sure there are no faults here. Okay, faults are clear. We can go ahead and turn our displays on. So we'll come down here, back up a bit, reset the master caution, just spin them up a bit. Alright, there's the PFD, ND, navigation display, there's the FCP, co-pilot screens, and ECAM displays. This, by the way, is a nice floodlight if you need it, or the instrument lights, sorry, not the floodlight. And then this one here, you can brighten up your MCDU screens. And I think that's it for our light system. So then ideally, what we would want to do, let me move on down here, is we're going to come down here and walk through some stuff on the ECAM page. First off, you would want to hit recall and make sure that you don't get any error messages. Oh, like that one right there, that nav TCAS fault, which is fine. I don't think that was there before. Could be. But anyway, recall, you're checking for any error messages that were not reported from the previous flight. Okay. And then you would check your hydraulic pressure. That's still a work in progress. Make sure hydraulics were all good. Same thing with the engine. We're going to check the oil quantity. Make sure it's above 23, I believe, is the limit there. It's the threshold. Okay, then we would check our flight control surfaces and make sure that they respond to the inputs according to what we're doing in the seat. Okay. And make sure they return to their center position. Alright, let's come on back here for a second. And let me go back one more. I'm still learning these camera settings. They're kind of dumb. There we go. We're going to set the parking brake. Make sure it's set to on. Check the accumulator pressure here. Make sure that we're golden. Looks like we're in the green. We're good. 10 pounds, I believe, is where we want to be. Don't quote me. And then now we can go back up top. Oops, that's not up top. That's up top. Alright, we're going to make sure that our crew air supply is on. We're going to make sure that the ground control is set, currently inoperative. We would do our CVR test, which again, currently inoperative, but you know, hopefully soon it will be there. And then the evacuation order. This switch indicates who has the final decision to evacuate the aircraft. We would set this down to captain. Again, not currently operational, but we'll get there soon. The IRSs for the ADIR system, we're going to do 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, let those go into through the alignment process. Takes about 7 to 10 minutes. We can come down to our lighting panel. We're going to set the strobe to auto, the beacon to on, and our nav and logo lights on. We'll come over and bring our seatbelt signs to on, our no smoking sign to auto, and arm the emergency exit lights. Okay. Now, assuming that refuel is complete, we set our fuel on before, but making sure the refueling process is complete, we can come up here and turn on our fuel pumps. Now, again, new question. I don't think the center tanks are required to be on if there is no fuel in them, which ours do not have any fuel. But again, just something to be aware of. All right, and then now that the fuel pumps are on, we can go ahead and do our fire test on the engines. At this point, we would also configure radio 3 if we chose to, but again, currently inoperative. All right, come down to the center display. We got a couple things. We would make sure our chronometer here is set to our GPS. Here we would set the barometric pressure. So we want to actually tune that down to 29902. Now you would verify this with ATIS, but I can tell you right now it's 29902. In Tucson, it's always 29902. Not really, but still, I did check. And then we would also want to make sure nose wheel steering is engaged. Okay. And again, I can't stress, with the barometric pressure here, this is not available in the default aircraft. Remember, I am making this video with a mod with things that will hopefully be a part of the default aircraft, but at the very least, as accurate as possible. So keep that in mind as we continue to roll through. Alright, now I will skip this step for today. Oops, let's bring that down here. But at this point, we would also set our radios. By the way, if you guys see that the screens are currently off, what it is your camera angle. Okay, so if you guys are running into that, move your camera around. Alright, so we can set our radio frequencies at this point. Like, for example, I do believe... Here, let's just check. We can bring up... Oh, we're on ATIS right now. So 124.4 is ground. And clearance at 12665. So 124.4, I don't know how we're on ATIS. 124. Yeah, see, they're saying runway 29 left is in use, but we're taking off 11 left. We're going to be going off the other direction, so good thing it's just a sim. Alright, let's set it to ground, and then 12665, I think, was clearance. And we should actually talk to clearance first, but anyway, we would configure our radios at this point. Give me a second, I just created a sticky note on my document. Alright, so radios are set. Now, we would get our clearance information, so let's go ahead and do that real quick, actually. What the hell? Tucson Com should be on clearance, but you're not giving it to me, which is really dumb. So let's go back to ATIS for a second. Tucson Airport. And then we'll do this. That worked last time. Alright, let's go to ground. Alright, so we are going to want... they are literally not giving me anything out. Well, first, we also need our stuff. So let's get our catering service.
Tucson ground Southwest 1233. Could you please send the catering truck?
Southwest 1233. The catering truck is on the road.
I really wish they didn't have this part. Send jetway.
Tucson ground Southwest 1233. Could you please connect the jetway to the aircraft?
Southwest 1233. The jetway is going to be connected.
Power supply.
Tucson ground Southwest 1233. Could you please send a ground power unit?
And the last one will be baggage.
Southwest 1233.
Yeah, I think this whole communication is stupid. Doesn't need to be there. Maybe somebody will make a mod that will get rid of that. I like the visuals, it just doesn't need to have this communication. Not for what we're doing. Oh, hey, can I just turn that crap off? There we go. Alright, so now let's go back to clearance. And let's see here. Oh, not giving us our IFR. So, alright, we'll worry about the squawk later. So later we'll get our squawk code, which we'll enter down here, and then set the transponder to auto. You can see how the screen went off right there. There it goes. It's really odd behavior. Anyway, so let's keep on moving down here. We'll come back up to the FCP, flight control panel. We want to set our constraints on. Okay, this basically tells us it will display the altitude limits on the navigation display. Okay, we want to make sure we're in arc, and until we get to cruise altitude, we want to be within 10 to 20 miles on the range indicator here. We can turn our flight directors on now, no harm there. Alright, and we are go ahead. So we got IRS in alignment. We got 1 minute looks like left. Okay, and I think we are ready to start entering our flight plan. We are indeed. So let's go ahead and get down to the MCDU. Alright guys, so now let's go ahead and start looking at the MCDU. So here we can see our engine type, and this is the primary screen that will come up when the MCDU first powers on. Here you can see your nav data date range information. These are the ranges in which the nav data is valid. It is currently out of date. As we can see, it expired the 4th of July. here's the aircraft variation type, and this performance number here basically identifies the wear and tear of the aircraft. The higher this number, the less performance you'll get from the engines, as in a method to prevent overstressing the aircraft. Okay, now our first step of what we're going to do to program the aircraft is we're going to go to the INIT A page. So this is INIT A, and this is INIT B. Okay, so initialization A is where we're going to start. First thing we need to do is we need to tell it where we are and where we're going. And where we're going to find that information, come over to our flight plan, is right here. KTUS to KLAX. Now the only difference in how we're going to enter it is instead of the hyphen, we're going to put a slash. Okay, so we're going to come here and do KTUS slash KLAX. Okay, and drop that in there. Our alternate route, so this will bring us to the company route page. Now, as you can see, there aren't any company routes installed, but if there were, you could select which route you were going to. If this was for example, if this was a route that you took very often, that your company took often, you might have a pre-programmed route where you just select it, boom, all of your flight path information is already set. So we're going to hit return as there's nothing. Now we're going to do alternate route. So this is the alternate airport should we need to divert, and that's going to be right here. You can see, darn it, there you go, K Ontario, or K for Ontario, I should say. KONT for Ontario. Gosh, I can't think. So there's KONT. Drop that in there. Our flight number, you can see, is up here. Okay. Next thing we're going to be looking at is the cost index, which is over here. So our cost index for today is 20. Drop that right there. And next, our cruise level is going to be right here. You can see we're flying at 360, so 36,000 feet. And that part is correct, but I think the temperature is wrong. And how we're going to find that is we're going to scroll down to our detailed flight route. So here's our routing for the departure information, or our flight information, but we actually want the detailed route. And we're going to find TOC for top of climb. And we're going to be looking at this M45 here, which shows the actual weather. Okay, so we're going to come up here. And what we're going to do to change this is we can either just do, I think we can just do slash negative 45 to change that. Nope, won't let us. We got to type the whole thing out. That's fine. So let's hit clear. So we're just going to do is 360. We don't need the FL slash negative 45, and there we go. Now our temperature is correct based on our top of climb. Okay. So now that we've done, we're complete with this page. Let's go ahead and move on to entering our flight plan. Now all this looks real scary right off the bat if you've never seen it before, but it's pretty simple when you think about what's going on. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on this line right here, our route. Okay, this is our route. All right, and we're going to be starting with Tucson International on runway 11 left. Okay, now I'm pretty sure ATC thinks that 29 right is the active runway right now. We're going to use 11 left for the sake of matching everything to our flight plan. Okay, so Tucson, we're using 11 left. We're going to be using the Burrow 4 departure, our SID, Standard Instrument Departure, and joining the Gila Bend GBN transition to jump onto the J104 airway. We're going to use the J104 to fly to Waypoint Messy. From Waypoint Messy, we're going to go direct, so not worrying about an airway, to Eastwind. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on right now. Okay, and it's pretty simple how we enter it all in. So let's go ahead and move that back off. So we're going to go KTUS. We're setting up our departure. We're going to be using runway 11 left, and if you needed to, if we had more, you could scroll through here, as you can see. We're going to use 11 left. There's the Burrow 4. And again, you may need to scroll through here. There may be a bunch of them. And here's the Gila Bend transition. And we can see all the information right up here. Runway 11 left, the SID Burrow 4, to the Gila Bend transition. Now, another cool thing we can do is if you just Google, like all I did here was I went to Google and I typed in Burrow 4 SID. That's all I did. And this chart popped up. And so here we can see there's runway 11 left. We're going to be traveling on a heading of 123 degrees. Okay, here's the Burrow. From Burrow, we're going to go to Splits, to Ryan, Rosker, and there's the Gila Bend. Okay, and you can also see your altitude restrictions at each point. So we have an altitude restriction. It looks like we have to stay between 6,100 and 9,000 by the time we reach Gila Bend. Alright, let's move that back off for a second. Alright, so now that we've verified that's correct, we just hit insert. And we can scroll down, and there we are. So now from the Gila Bend, okay, from the Gila Bend, so we're going to select it, we now need to join an airway. So we're going to select the airways. Now airways and waypoints. Airways, waypoints, okay? How am I getting there? Where am I going? So how we're getting there is the J104. Okay, and we are going to Messy. Oops, sorry. Put that up there first. Now we're going to the Messy waypoint. Okay, boom, and that's in. So now all we have to do now is just go to flight plan, and again, scroll. There's GBN. Okay, we're joining the 104, and there's Messy. Now, from Messy, we need to go direct to Eastwind. Now, you should be able to enter this all in from this screen, but I've seen it do some really weird stuff. So here's what we're going to do. From here, as long as the next point is this D cell, we're fine. So from here, let me show you what should happen. We're going to go to Eastwind, so ESTWD, again, as we can see here, direct. And this only works with direct waypoints, okay? Anytime you're going just direct, when you're not using an airway, you can enter in your waypoints like this. And so we're going to enter that, and we're going to actually select the destination here. Okay, and now we see GBN, there's the Messy. We scroll up, there's Eastwind. Okay, and we can just hit insert. All right. Now, here's the next part that I have a problem with. Now we're going to set up our arrival. And we have the Hollywood 1, okay, the arrival, the star, standard terminal approach route, or arrival route, going to KLX using runway 25 right. Alright, now we have a problem here, and that is that the Hollywood 1, for whatever reason, is not in the system, which, and I say whatever reason because this nav data would have to be very, very old for the Hollywood 1 to not be available. I have used the Hollywood 1 all the way back to my days of flying P3D. I haven't flown P3D in probably the better part of 4 years. Okay, and I use it on X-Plane 11, so it should be here. Okay, out of date or not. But for whatever reason, it's not. But normally what we would do is we would come in here. Okay, we would select our arrival, we would select our runway, then we would select the star, the Hollywood 1. Okay, now because it's not here, I'm going to show you guys a different way to get around this. So let's go ahead and find ILS 25 right. Whenever possible, you want to use the ILS. Okay, and here you can see the star is not there. Now there is a VIA there. Okay, if we check the VIAs, we can see Sivu, and this is why you always want to reference your entire flight route first before entering anything. If we go through our detailed flight route, so we can see here's the Borough 4 highway or airway, here's the J104. Okay, then direct to Eastwind, so we've jumped off the 104, and now we're just flying direct, and we're supposed to join up with the Hollywood 1. Okay, at McQueen. Okay, and then we travel through our waypoints, and we should come down to Sivu is where we would exit the Hollywood 1. And we can see Sivu here. Now, we're not going to select it yet, okay, but always reference your route before just throwing things in there, okay? So we're going to erase. We're going to back out for a second. And so what we have to do is we have to fake it. We have to fake that we've joined the Hollywood 1, okay? Because it's, like I said, this is an issue with Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is not an issue with the nav data. Somehow this just flat out didn't get entered, okay? Unless they are using very, very old flight data, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to enter each one of these waypoints in, so that way we fly basically the same route we would as the Hollywood 1. Now remember, this isn't completely accurate, because if we were on the Hollywood 1, okay, by going direct, we're literally going point the nose at McQueen, point the nose at Midler, point the nose at Monroe. Okay, where if you were on an airway, it might do, okay, you're flying, you go through McQueen, but between Midler and McQueen, there may be a turn. Okay, that's why you always want to use the airways whenever possible. Okay, and they do that for traffic avoidance, okay, to make sure that you don't hit another aircraft. Alright, so, or there could be other reasons, restrictions, you know, things like that, military airspace, you know, there's a bunch of different actually reasons why that would happen, but those are just a few. But we're going to fake it, so we're going to enter each one of these waypoints and repeating the process that we just did. So I'm going to pull that off screen for a second, and all I'm going to do is come through here, and again, because Eastwind is our last one, we can just enter direct. So all these are going to be direct, so we're going to go M CQWN, right? Yep. And we're simply going to... Now, we should be able to select east wind, and the waypoint should go directly underneath east wind. However, I think it's one of the many bugs we're battling with that doesn't always work, and sometimes it will replace east wind, sometimes it will put it above it. What I have found 100% success rate with is by selecting your destination airfield. So we're going to go here. Okay, if we scroll down, oops, there's McQueen, then east wind. Okay, so we're good. Insert, and let's just repeat the process. Alright, so we're going to go to Midler, MDLER, select there, and we're just going to go insert again, and then Monroe, MNROE, boom, insert, and then we're going to Hollywood, so HALYW, or HLYWD, insert, and we'll go ahead and do a quick check, make sure everything's going right. East Wind, McQueen, Midler, Monroe, Hollywood, good. Alright, now we'd be at our top of descent here, but we're going to go to Bruin, BRUEN, come on, there we go. I'm trying to do this fast for you guys. Alright, and then Avatar, or Aviator, I'm not sure which one it is. AVATR, might not be either one of them, honestly. And insert, and then Day, DAAAY, enter, insert, what up, UP, enter, insert, and then finally the last one is Neil. Okay, and we'll enter that in and hit insert. Now if we scroll through, okay, so again, Midler, Monroe, okay, we're looking for Bruin, Aviator, Day, Watt-Up. So if we come back over here, East Wind, McQueen, Midler, Monroe, Hollywood, Bruin, Aviator, Day, Watt-Up, Neil. Now, Neil is the last waypoint before Sivu. So now we'll enter in that via. So we're going to go arrivals again. We're going to find our ILS approach, 25 right. Okay, selecting our runway. We're going to check the vias. There's Sivu. So we're going to check Sivu. Alright, so now we have the ILS 25 right, via Sivu, hit insert, and boom. Our flight plan is now complete. And what we can do now is come up here, and we're just going to point the nose up here, and we're going to select plan on our rotary. I wish I could turn those stupid tooltips off. I have the mod installed, but it's not working for me. I don't know why. I probably did something wrong. But we're going to take this rotary and set it over to plan. Okay, and now you can see this green path is our flight path. Flight path. Alright, so let's go ahead and back out a little bit so we can see our arrows. And what we can do is we can step through the flight. So there we go, moving right along. There's us at splits, Ryan, and whatever's on top is what's in the center. So there's Ryan, there's us passing Rosker, hitting the Gila Bend, joining the 104 here at Messi, going direct to Eastwind, going to McQueen, going to Midler, Monroe, there's the Hollywood, there's Bruin, yep, there's Aviator, Day, Watt-Up, Neil, there's Sivu, joining the arrival for 25 right, all the way down to the runway. And these are our altitude targets that we need to be at. So by shell, for example, we need to be at 3,700 feet, and then coming in, hopefully joining the localizer and bringing her in. All right. So it can be pretty confusing. There's a lot of information to these things. I swear, I think these aircraft are harder to learn than some of the aircraft in DCS with all of their complexities. So, you know, leave me comments and questions below if I missed something, if there's a better explanation that you guys have for some of this, if there are steps I could have taken differently. please let me know below. I want this guide that I'm creating to be as thorough as possible and as useful as possible. I think the hardest thing, and you know, that's what my DCS videos are all about. I think so many people have an interest in this stuff and they avoid it because the learning curve is so steep. I think people are genuinely afraid of some of the learning curves, and you know, rightfully so. It's a lot of information. It really is. You know, but you know, that's why I'm creating this doc. You know, to sort of, you know, give everyone something to work with. I mean, I've broken down everything that I can think of, but if you guys can think of more, I mean, even this doc, I put in exactly what should happen. So, you know, coming down here, you know, I wrote down that we should have seen the Hollywood one arrival here, and then, you know, coming down below, I wrote down what we just did here on the screen, you know, so as a workaround. So I hope that you guys are enjoying these videos. Please like and subscribe. Continue to provide the support. I love it. Adam, you know who you are. Thank you so much for the donation to the channel. That means a lot, pal. I really appreciate that. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one, where we will take a look at the remaining items on the MCDU. Okay, we still have to set up the performance and the takeoff information, and then we will basically get the aircraft ready for taxi and takeoff. All right, catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.